Good evening, everyone. It is 7:30, March 3rd, 2021. We starting our legislative meeting. And I think we'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Okay. Trustee Fritchie,
Present.
Trustee White,
Present.
Trustee Quesada.
Present.
That's it. Okay. Trustee Lopez,
Present.
Mayor Levin.
Present.
Okay. Mayors and trustees announcement.
Who would like to kick us off for the evening? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone. I'm going to take that as no one has announcements tonight. So I will make an announcement. We had an interesting meeting last night with members of the police reform working committee that was appointed by the mayor and board last year. Interesting meeting, lots of good conversation. I personally learned a lot. We were able to get through some of the main points. So, we videotaped it, and we are coming down to the wire because at this point in March, the board really does need the final version, which for the most part has been on the website for the past few weeks, and the board will look at the plan and vote for parts of the plan and create its own final plan to then get signed off by April 1 to go up to the governor's office. So just want to let the public know about that. We should have that in the next few days. So that'll be the final part of that. A reminder, the weather got a little bit nicer this week, finally. So very exciting stuff. Just a reminder that people are beginning to look at their trees, their shrubs, etc. Received an email from someone in Green Ossining just to remind people we have rules and policies about tree removal and tree cutting down trees because it does affect the environment. I highly recommend that you call the village manager's office or DPW and get information, especially around some of the very mature older trees that are out there, or speak to the arborist. Municipalities have different rules. They do affect the way water flows to your neighbor's property. They do affect the environment. So I highly recommend before someone calls our code folks that that you take care of the trees properly. And that they are important to the environment. So before you cut a mature tree down, to please check our rules on the website or call as appropriate. Very much appreciate that. Wanted to also mention that earlier today, the county had a lovely event, mostly virtual, although you could go down there. March is really the month that so much of our state, and especially in Westchester County, things began to really close down, whether it was businesses, stores, large and small. New York City started shutting down. Many people in this community work in the city. Government offices started shutting down. It doesn't seem like it's a year, but it's practically the anniversary. I want to use that as a segue to say that here in our village, we've lost many of our neighbors, our family members, and many people were affected by it. The village staff, I think, did a yeoman's job of stepping up to the plate with something that was unprecedented. I'd like to say that we will never have it again. This was a one-time deal, but we're still in a pandemic. The village staff is still adjusting to many changes. We're going to hear more about that, how it affects our community center, it affects camps, schools are being affected. But we thought it would be nice, and I've mentioned this before, but we have a date where on March 13th, we're going to take the opportunity to call it a groundbreaking. I don't have the official name. I should have the official name, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that we're going to create a sitting area at Nelson Sitting Park so that people can congregate on that day, but also, excuse me, virtually congregate. We're only going to have a few people there. That we want to plant a couple of trees, put a bench or two, more information to come about the details, but we'll save the date for March 13th so that we could all take a few minutes out of our busy life and sort of stand united in honoring those amongst us that have gotten sick and have passed on. This has been a tough year. I think things are getting a bit better as the vaccines become available, and there are more vaccines. I put in my mayor's update, there are more vaccines being distributed in this county and across the country. So I'm optimistic that things are going to start speeding up and get better. Those are primarily my announcements for tonight. And I'm looking at my screen. I'm not seeing anybody wanting to make. I see Dana White now, yes, raising both hands, not just one, and the fists are up. So super hands are up. Go ahead, Dana. I think you have your
You're
mute on.
muted.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Fantastic.
I think I'd have the hang of this by now, but no.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about briefly a great grand opening we went to a couple days ago. Austining Padres Hispanos, which is an organization that helps people in the village with all sorts of services and advice, has opened its own headquarters on Spring Street. I think it's 22, that the building where Neighbors Link is. And it's, I mean, it's just great to see this group that, you know, started, what, 5 years ago? Small, you know, very popular Facebook page, and they, you know, they've now expanded to become like this place with a place where people can come for food, for clothing, other types of assistance. I don't know, I guess you can just go if you need help. And if you look at their Facebook page, I think they have the exact address, but it's that building next to City, the Chase Bank on Spring Street. So it was very inspiring.
23-25
Okay.
is the number upstairs.
It's on the third floor.
Right. Really good stuff. Thanks for bringing that up, Dana. Really good stuff going on in our community. Okay. Thank you all. We're past our announcements. Shall we move on, excuse me, to administrative reports? Village Manager Karen Diatori.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. We have a few announcements. Things are starting to literally heat up, so we hope for warmer weather and more activity in the spring. So we will be talking about camp and summer programs soon. Our recreation superintendent has a call with the Department of Health this Friday, so hopefully by next week we'll be able to announce what we're doing. We want to make sure that we bring the best programming to as many kids and families possible. But we also want to make sure we're doing it as safely as possible too. And we're also looking to, we're talking to the school district too, to make sure we can work to complement whatever programs they have running in the summer as well. So more on that shortly. Last Friday, my department, Maddie and Jamie and Lisa Nestor and I took a little field trip to visit Bethany Arts Center, Arts Community, to see Black History and Culture, the Black History and Culture exhibit that was curated by our own village historian, Joyce Schrockle, and we were really blown away. We had a personal guided tour by Joyce, who just happened to be there, and it was an amazing exhibition of curated artifacts and stories from Ossining residents. There was art from Ossining school children or high school students. There was marvelous artwork created by so many people in the community. Really rich history that some of it we knew about and some of it we didn't, and it was fabulous. And there are 2 days left, so if you can get over to Bethany, you can go online and sign up for a time to go. It's free, but it is the best deal in town. I really, really would not miss it if I were you. On Monday, we had our consultants, Creighton Manning Engineering, come in to do to work with our technical advisory committee, which involves staff and 2 trustees, Bob Fritchie and Dana White, to talk about our Route 9 road diet study. So that is kicking off. And again, this is a study to evaluate taking that 4-lane portion of Route 9 right in the hollow and seeing if what the potential is of creating 2 lanes of traffic and putting some parking and maybe some other mobility features that would allow us to use other types of transportation potentially as well, but primarily parking. And we are going to be doing community engagement on that starting the week of April 4th in English and Spanish. So look forward to save the dates. We're looking for community members, key stakeholders. We'll be reaching out and advertising that. So we also, along the same lines, we had a conversation with somebody who'd like to bring electric scooters to Ossining. And again, in our quest to make sure that we're being as efficient and sustainable as possible, we're always looking for new ways to get up and down these hills. So if we can pull it off, we're right now exploring the potential of a pilot program where we can test out some scooters and see how they do throughout Ossining as another yet alternative to get around our community. Again, lots going on. Even though we're socially distant, there's still a lot of activities. So, and speaking of festivities and activities, Earth Day will be Earth Week this year. So we still can't do our typical celebrations where we have massive amounts of people and vendors and entertainment and food because of the pandemic, but we can still celebrate Earth Day. And this day, it's going to be Earth Day week. From April 17th to April 25th, we will have a range of different activities coordinated by Green Ossining in collaboration with the town and the village. And that's going to consist of programs, hikes, nature activities. I think we'll probably have some Zoom webinars and information about we're going to get we're going to be talking to Cornell Adaptive Design Studio to showcase some of the work that they did last year on resiliency and flood mitigation, sea level rise mitigation on the riverfront. Just a lot of interesting things in the hopper there. So while we will miss our annual event again very much this year, we have some good things anticipated. We may even see some tall ships docking. So we'll keep you posted on everything. Also, I just want to mention that it's starting to be grant season too. So we have had a meeting with the county. The community development block grants have been announced. Those are grants that are administered. They're HUD grants, Housing and Urban Development grants from the federal government, but they administered by the county, and we are part of a county consortium of communities that will apply for these grants through the county. The county will administer the funding. We have gotten funding for road work, a lot of the work that we did this past year on more accessible streets in the Broad Avenue area. Actually, that was a different grant, but things like that. We have work coming up too, but this is work that improves community, provides community benefits, streetscaping, infrastructure work, as well as playgrounds, things like that. So we have a couple of different grant opportunities, and there's also a Hudson River Estuary grant that was announced this week too. So we'll be looking for to develop grant proposals, and we will be coming back to the board with those ideas and to the community as well. The community development block grant does require community input, so you will be hearing more about those ideas as well from us, as well as some of our nonprofit partners. I do want to remind everybody that next Tuesday, March 9th at 7 o'clock, we're going to be doing the fifth in our series of 6 engagement presentations on our DPW site development. This presentation will focus on the school district and the fiscal impacts of this development on the school district. We have been talking to the school district since the conception of this project, the idea. So we've been working closely with them. We want to make sure that whatever we do, that we're working synergistically with our school district, with the community, to make sure that we're bringing forth projects that provide the greatest benefit to the most people with the least impacts that would be negative in any way. So you can hear more about that on next Tuesday, and that will be recorded. So if you can't make it, you can watch it too. And that, I think, sums up everything I have right now, but Maddie Zahatch has also been very busy and has a couple of things to announce as well.
Karen, good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I have 2 rather quick announcements from a little bit more on the grants and sustainability corner of the manager's office. This past Tuesday, the village hosted a kickoff meeting for our urban forestry grant project, which will fund the planting of nearly 80 native trees in Nelson Park and Nelson Sitting Park. So I was joined by our Recreation Park Superintendent Bill Garrison, as well as project manager Jamie Hoffman. We were also joined by Susie Ross of Green Ossining and Donna Sharrett, who, for those of you who know Donna, she wears many hats in the Ossining community. The hat that she was wearing that day was Cornell Cooperative Extension. So we discussed our work plan with our partners at the DEC and Save a Tree, who are going to be our consulting arborists, who both recognized and commented on the great enthusiasm and deep bench we have lined up for this project. We're anticipating the trees are going to be planted in late April or early May, and will be accompanied by a variety of educational components, thanks to the effort, energy, and ideas coming from EAC and Green Ossining. In an effort to keep the community in the loop about improvements to these parks, be on the lookout for some work in progress postings as we get a bit closer to planting day. And finally, I've been working closely with Andy Teese and Paul Fraioli to replace the electrical vehicle charging station at the Operations Center, which is mainly used to charge fleet vehicles for the village and town, but is nearing its 10th birthday. So thanks to some sizable incentives from both NYSERDA and Con Edison, the vast majority of the project is going to be covered. In addition, we've scheduled some time to visit the community center and downtown next week to get some ideas for where else we might like to place some additional charging stations around the community. As more of our residents and residents throughout Westchester make the move to electric vehicles, we look forward to making it easier for them to reduce their carbon footprint while they check out our amazing shops and restaurants, as well as our recreation programs and the beautiful Sing Sing Kill Greenway Trail. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Next, sorry, go back here. We'd like to hear from Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, folks. A few things to point out. I'm pleased to report that within the next, hopefully, few weeks, our Justice Court will begin accepting payment for parking tickets online. I do want to express special thanks to Judge Jeff Gasparo, who was instrumental in getting the Office of Court Administration to essentially approve his proposal. There are a few things that are still being worked out, but it does look like that will start very soon with regard to parking tickets, and that will that'll be a very big change and very welcome change. Also, with regard to the courts, we've been told that we can start adding cases to the calendar on the 6th of April, which will mean that cases which have been waiting to go to the appearance ticket stage can now actually go to the appearance ticket stage, and we can start expanding those calendars. So that's also something that's a positive. Deputy Corporation Counsel Tangsley and I have been in contact with the building department, with the code enforcement officers, and with the building inspector and assistant building inspector to see which cases can actually get added on to the calendar so that we can begin getting back. Those appearances are still done remotely, generally through the use of Microsoft Teams, and that has been helpful in that regard. On tonight's agenda, there are 3 resolutions that relate to the comprehensive plan, the draft generic environmental impact statement, and proposed zoning text amendments. And those have been discussed previously. There are scheduling of public hearings, acceptance of the draft generic environmental impact statement, and referral of the comprehensive plan draft and the text amendments to both the county and the village planning boards. With regard to upcoming meetings, there is a zoning meeting this coming Tuesday, which is March the 9th. And again, anyone is entitled, anyone may watch and participate if you wish. The agenda and all associated materials are online, and you are welcome to be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel. Chief Sylvester.
Good evening. Our only announcement tonight is the announcement of the police test. Came out on Monday. Once every 4 years, or sometimes a little longer, people have an opportunity to compete for the position of police officer. It is a civil service exam. That test is going to take place May 15th and 16th, but for anyone interested in taking it, the sign up is between now and May 29th. The sign up is at westchestergov.com. It's a little hard to find right now, but we've reached out to Westchester County and they've assured us they were going to put a link somewhere easier to find, more prominent on the front page of their website. So hopefully they'll do that today or tomorrow and make it easy for people to find. But we are encouraging everyone to take this exam and make themselves eligible. Specifically that if you want to be a police officer, great, but more importantly for those that aren't sure or maybe even think that this isn't for them, this is your opportunity to take the test. If you don't take the test and you change your mind in 2 years, you're out for 2 more after that. You don't have a chance until 2025 now. Anybody considering a career in law enforcement, it's a great job most of the time. We want to see as many people from Austin as possible. We have a local preference list. It's a great opportunity for young people in this community to get really great stable employment. So we're encouraging everyone, for those people that watch board meetings, because they're usually not lots of young people watching board meetings. Please, for those of you watching, if you're not looking for a new job, tell all your friends, family, and neighbors about this test. So encouraging everyone to either take the test or share the information with a friend or family member. And as I said before, sign up ends on March 29th. It is a very, very short time frame for a very, very important exam. So that's it for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is organization. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Martha. I know. Doing your job. Sorry.
Okay. We're going on to organizational announcements. Is there anybody here who would like to make an organizational announcement? No? Okay. Public comment on agenda item. Is there anybody here who would like to address the board on any of the resolutions on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing no one, we're going on to village board resolutions. Approval of minutes, February 17th, 2021. Result of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the February 17th, 2021 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? No? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay. Approval of voucher detailed March 3rd, 2021. Result of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves a voucher detail report dated March 3rd, 2021 in the amount of $377,071.90. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Comments on the board?
just one quick thing. Sorry, Martha. Thank you, Dale, for all the hard work that you guys that you do and you do in your office. It has made at least my life a lot easier. I know I have said this before, but to answer some of the stuff that we talked about before, if you can color code all the departments, that'd be even better for me, because then I can figure out which department has a cover sheet and what color. So yes, I have some ideas, especially for the DPW, but we can take that offline at some point. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay. Resolution, approval of honorary naming of Liberty Street for Joanne Tong, whereas the proposal of the honorary street naming policy approved by the Village of Austin Board of Trustees is to honor current and former residents of the village who have made contributions to the village to accomplishments during the honoree's lifetime, and whereas on or about October 7, 2020, the village manager received a letter from Scott Kahan requesting the honorary street naming of Liberty Street for his late wife Joanne Tong, and whereas pursuant to the honorary street naming policy, the Board of Trustees by resolution referred the application to the village historian for a report, and whereas on or about December 4, 2020, village historian Joy Shara Cole provided to the Board of Trustees her report on the application, which included a summary of Joanne Tong's life and contributions to the village of Austin, and whereas the historian's report noted the following. Joanne Tong lived in Austin for 30 years, from 1990 until her passing on March 13, 2020. It was important for her to live in a place that was diverse, which is one of the many reasons she chose Austin. Joanne and her husband Scott purchased her family home at 4 Liberty Street, located in our historic Sparta district. It is there that they raised their 2 daughters, Abigail and Hannah, restored their historic home, and opened a family business, Kamen Tall Architects PC, which they established in 2010. It is still in operation today. As a principal architect, Joanne specialized in historic preservation, residential design, and adaptive reuse. A brilliant architect with a public servant heart, she began her 30-year service to the village of Austin after a few months of settling in her new home. Joanne's unparalleled passion and devotion to the community and historical preservation has had an undeniable effect on Austin. She cared deeply about the village and the residents and gave selflessly of her time and expertise to the entire community. Through her project dedication, attention to detail, and her passion and skill in architecture, Joanne Tong was an integral figure in Austin's legacy. And whereas, pursuant to the policy, a public hearing was held on the application on February 17, 2021 via Zoom in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, at which time members of the public were given the opportunity to address the Board of Trustees and on the application, after which the public hearing was closed, and now therefore be it resolved that the application for the honorary street naming of Liberty Street for Joanne Tong is granted, and be it further resolved, the appropriate signage will be located at the aforementioned street. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Before I ask for the comment from the board, which I will, it looks like, is it Hannah that is actually in the attendees section? How do we bring her over if she wants to say a word? Is there a way for her to let us know? I'm not obligated to speak, but I do at least want to give her the opportunity if she so desires. Does she raise her hand? Does she?
She can raise her hand if she'd like to speak, yes.
Okay, and I'm just stalling a little bit in case you want to raise the little hand. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's green. There it is. Can we bring her over, please? Someone who's a host.
She is here. Yes.
Oh, can you
Hello,
hear?
Hannah. Welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yep, I don't have much to say other than I really appreciate Joyce's effort in filing the application. It was a beautiful presentation, and I'm just happy to be sitting here again today and listening in on the approval.
Thank you, Hannah. Any comments from the board? I know we've discussed this a few times because there's a whole protocol and process in place in this case, but I would be remiss if I didn't open up for an opportunity if anybody wanted to add any commentary.
I may, Mayor.
Please.
You know, it's hard to put words in situations like this. Sure, I'm happy that this is happening. I'm sad. The reason why this is happening, obviously. Known Joanne for many years, learned a lot from her. It's an honor to be part of this, part of the process. And I want to thank Joanne's family, Scott, Hannah, everybody that allow Joanne to dedicate so much of her time to this community as she did. So I thank you for allowing her to be part of in the bigger picture for all the stuff that she did. So again, it's a really an honor and privilege to be part of this process right now. And I'm looking forward to being part of where the sign goes up on her street at some point soon, I'm assuming. But that will coordinate that and hoping that the board will be in favor of passing this resolution, which I believe we will. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Manny. I think we all knew her. We've all said a lot about her. I had said that she was one of the first people I met as a trustee, super passionate, super smart, so happy that the family worked with Joyce to educate us even further. This is what makes Austin, I think, a personal community. It's not just a place where people come and go, but for many of us, just a really special place to live. We're ready to vote, but I'm looking around to see if anybody else wants to say anything. And I do recognize, I think, the public that follows us, that we've been talking about this for a while. I was just going to ask, how would the public find out the date when we're actually putting this sign up? I know we're still trying to do social distancing. Does village manager have any idea of that, or?
I can answer that if Karen would like me to.
Oh, please. Thank you.
So similar to the one that, sure, of course, thank you. So similar to the other one that we're doing, I reach out to the family. So Hannah, you and all of the other people will get an email from me trying to find a date that works best for you and your family to attend, and then I'll circle back to the board and confirm the date. One thing that we'll just need to know, which I think Paul Fraioli needs to know, is exactly where on the street that we're going to put it, like if there's a connection or if there's a side street, wherever it is, probably closest to the home. If you want to nod your head, Paul, if I'm right on that one. Yeah, so we'll find that out and then we'll let you know. I'm assuming it'll be sometime in April or the beginning of May. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us today as well. If I could take this back to the board for the vote, Martha?
I think that.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Omar.
I think Trustee White had something to say. She was raising her hand.
I'm sorry, Dana. I didn't see you. Sorry about that. Did you have something to say?
Well, you know, I just, you know, knew Joanne through historic preservation efforts, which she was passionate about. And, you know, whenever I see an old building still standing, I think of her, particularly on State Street, next to the new Children's Center where the old factory used to be. And, you know, they demolished the two wings and they left the house, the old house from 1830s, Sing Sing Marble Mansion. And they left that standing because of Joanne and her efforts, and to landmark it and protect it, and to stipulate that any construction there would have to incorporate that building. And it is a very important, one of only a few remaining Sing Sing marble structures in the village. So every time I look down Broad and I see it, I think of her, and I don't know, hopefully she would like that. So I'm glad this is happening.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, Martha, I think we're ready for the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Nope. Okay. Resolution enacting COVID-19 Remembrance Day in the Village of Austin. Whereas on January 21st, 2020, the United States announced the first confirmed case of COVID-19, followed shortly thereafter by New York State's announcement of its first confirmed case on March 1st, 2020. And whereas in the years since, more than 500,000 Americans have lost their lives to this cruel and indiscriminate disease. And whereas the Austin community was significantly affected with the hardships inflicted by economic challenges and social isolation surpassed only by the illness or loss of loved ones, all traumas from which many have just begun to recover. And whereas the Village of Austin's leadership is compelled to recognize all residents who have endured the difficulties resulting from the global pandemic and to bear witness to the tragedy our entire community has experienced. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby decrees that the second Saturday each March 4th shall be named COVID-19 Remembrance Day in the Village of Austin, and be it further resolved that the Village of Austin will install and maintain a COVID-19 Remembrance Memorial at Nelson Sitting Park for residents and visitors to remember, contemplate, and pay homage to family, friends, neighbors, and loved ones who were lost to this tragic illness. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay, I'm just going to add, I said it earlier, but this actually is more of an underscore that we want to, monuments often after many years aren't remembered. They're nice looking. They oftentimes don't educate the visitor about what it's about. They take on different shapes and forms, and they um, just become part of the landscape. This, I think, will be a little different because it will allow people every year to sort of let this evolve, become evergreen, and not only be something that is usable, but also something that we are passing so that every year there's some sort of a remembrance about this particular point in our history, which has affected so many of us, no less than so many wars have affected communities. So I think this is sort of a neat thing for our community to do. So I appreciate the work behind this. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? Okay. Acceptance of draft generic environmental impact statement and scheduling public comment period. Whereas on October 21st, 2020, the Village of Austining Board of Trustees, as lead agency, issued the final scoping outline of issues to be addressed in a draft environmental impact statement, DGEIS, with the comprehensive plan update and zoning text amendments. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR sections 617.8A, the primary goals of scoping are to focus the EIS environmental impact statement on potentially significant adverse impacts and to eliminate consideration to these impacts that are irrelevant or non-significant. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.8G, the project sponsor must incorporate information submitted into the draft EIS. And whereas a DGIS has now been prepared for the village's proposed comprehensive plan update and zoning text amendments. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYR section 617.9A2, the lead agency will use the final written scope and the standards contained in this section to determine whether to accept the draft EIS as adequate with respect to its scope and content for the purpose of commencing public review. And whereas 6 NYCRR section 619.9A2 also notes a draft EIS is adequate with respect to scope and content for the purpose of commencing public review if it meets the requirements of the final written scope section 617.8G of this part and subdivision B of this section, and provides the public and involved agencies with the necessary information to evaluate project impacts, alternatives, and mitigation measures. And whereas the Board of Trustees has reviewed the DGIS to determine whether it is adequate with respect to its scope and content for the purpose of commencing public review. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.983, the minimum public comment period is 30 days. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees, as lead agency for the comprehensive plan update and zoning text amendments, accepts the draft environmental impact statement dated February 26, 2021, and determines that the DGEIS is adequate with respect to its scope and content for the purpose of commencing public review. And be it further resolved that pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.9A3, the Board of Trustees, as lead agency, shall prepare, file, and publish a notice of completion of the DGIS and file copies of the DGIS in accordance with the requirements set forth in section 617.12 of this part. And be it further resolved, the public comments of the DGIS shall be accepted by the Board of Trustees upon first filing and circulation of the notice of completion through Monday, April 12, 2021. And it is further resolved that pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.98, the Board of Trustees will determine whether or not to conduct a public hearing concerning the action, and that if such public hearing is conducted, shall be held no less than 15 calendar days, no more than 600 calendar days after the filing of the notice of completion of the DGIS, with notice that the hearing to be published at least 14 calendar days in advance of the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Martha, in the last paragraph, it's 60 calendar days. You read 600.
Oh, sorry, 60 calendar days.
Thank you, Martha.
All those in favor?
Nope.
I mean, sorry, do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Oh, second.
Comments on the board? I would like to make a request, Stuart. There are a lot of trigger dates here. Can we get 2 weeks notice before each of the trigger dates start happening? I know you do that anyway, but I just want to, I'm looking at the dates and trying to write them down as I was reading them so that.
Mayor, I'll provide a memo to the board with all the dates. Absolutely.
Thanks, appreciate it. I know there was a timeline too, so it's not like it hasn't been done. I just need it in one place. Thank you. Any comments besides my request? Not seeing any.
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see
Yeah,
any.
no, I just want to say thank you to Silva after they send out the last draft on Monday. I went over it. There was some points of clarification. I think I had a quick call with her and she made those changes to clarify the intent of the board as per our previous meeting from last week. So thank you very much for that. So I guess one quick comment, thank you. One quick comment of that one is we have it. I have not checked our website for the comp plan itself. Was that updated? And if there's a way for us to put the draft into our, as a part of the resolution, like a link to it, so people can, click on it and kind of doors them back, guide them back to where it should be. Is it something that we can do in that regards? Probably Martha, Karen, Maddie, or Jamie?
Yes, that's something that Martha can do. She can hyperlink anything in the agendas. She's very good at it.
All right, and also can we put that as a part of our website that will link them back to, I'm assuming, the comp plan's website as well?
So I don't have access to the comp plan website. That's done by BFJ, but I'm sure that we can work together to get it all so it switches back and forth. Yes, definitely.
I appreciate that.
No
Thank
problem.
you. I don't have any additional comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Is the mayor still here? Oh, there she is. Oh, sorry. I
Oh,
thought
and I'm
you-
on mute. I was asking, I
Okay.
was saying I'm not seeing any other hands up, so.
Oh, okay.
Martha?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Oh, opposed? Okay. Call for public hearing, proposed comprehensive plan and zoning text amendments, whereas by resolution dated January 28th, 2021, Village's Comprehensive Plan Working Committee approved a resolution recommending the proposed comprehensive plan to the Board of Trustees, and whereas pursuant to Village Law Section 7-722 6B, the Village Board of Trustees shall, within 90 days of receiving the planning board or special board's recommendation on such proposed plan or amendment, and prior to adoption of such proposed plan or amendment, hold a public hearing on such proposed plan or amendment. And whereas the Village of Austin Planning Board is reviewing proposed text amendments to the Village's zoning code, Chapter 270, as part of the proposed comprehensive plan. And whereas pursuant to Village Code Sections 270-59C, by resolution adopted at a meeting of the Village Board, the Village Board shall fix the time and place of a public hearing on the proposed amendment and cause notice thereof to be given in accordance with the provisions of Section 7-706 of Article 7 of the Village Law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. on March 31st, 2021 via Zoom pursuant to the continuing state of emergency and the executive orders issued by the Governor, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard, to consider the proposed comprehensive plan and zoning text amendments. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Village Law Section 7-722 6C, the proposed comprehensive plan or amendment thereto shall be made available for public review during said period at the office of the village clerk and may be made available at any other place, including a public library. And be it further resolved that for those individuals who want to watch and or participate in the public hearing, the following contact information is provided. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments on the board?
I do.
Sure, go ahead, Manny.
Thank you. So as a point of clarification, and maybe Frank or Jaime or anybody in BFJ can help me with this one. So part of the DGIS sections of that were struck out of the original proposed, that were also part of the proposed comprehensive plan as well in regards to the T-zone, the S75, some of the stuff in there. I haven't seen the latest portion of the presentation for the comp plan itself, but those changes that were reflected on the DGIS are also reflected on the revised comprehensive plan as well. Just help me understand that.
Manny, they're reflected in the proposed zoning. They are reflected in the comp plan, but there is still mention of them in the comp plan. As I tried hard to explain in our past meetings, that a mention of something in the comp plan does not bind you for instance, the mention of accessory units. Let me pick that one.
Correct. So
It is
again,
mentioned in the comp plan,
Frank,
but
I
not as a
totally,
zoning recommendation.
so I totally understand that. And,
Right.
you know, that's the reason why when we were talking about last week, when we talking about the DGIS process, we wanted those items to be striked out of that DGIS. So
They have been.
my understanding was that was also going to be strike from the comp plan as well. So I'm assuming that I misunderstood. So I want to ask the rest of the board if that was their understanding as well, that it was going to remain on the comp plan and not be strike out the comp plan as well.
I think
I
I
assumed
think Manny's asking everyone the question, so.
I assumed it would be struck from the comp plan as well. I'd prefer that.
Yeah, and I thought we had a discussion about that. It went
Yes,
back and forth. There was a
we
4-1. It's pretty consistent with the conversation.
Well, you can, by the way, you're free to do that at any time. In other words, you can still hold a public hearing if you hear anything from the public supportive or negative. After the hearing, you're going to be reviewing that comp plan again, as well as the zoning. So anything you want changed in the comp plan can be changed.
So I think that the issue here is that if it's in the DGEIS, it just is like an added layer of scrutiny and checking on, incorporating that. It does not mean in any way, shape, or form that any of those zoning recommendations need to be included. But and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, since those zoning recommendations were recommended by a committee and you still have a public hearing portion of before the final changes to the comp plan are made, that it may be in the interest of the board and just for efficiency, so that in the event that something would change, that you wouldn't have to go back and redo an environmental review process if you decided to do that. So it's a precautionary, I don't know if that's the right word, but the idea would be to, we haven't done the public hearing portion of the comp plan. So to make changes on the comp plan yet in advance of in advance of the public hearing, it just keeps all your options open.
But I thought we had this conversation and I thought that we were pretty clear about it. And so if we're asked to do something, we talk about it. We asked for something to be done.
Maybe there was it wasn't clear, because I'm not sure if it was clear to the staff. So that there may just be clarification on our end, because it's a little bit counter to the process that is usually done.
And we actually, I think what's being brought up is in the fact that we had this conversation already, and that, made a decision, understanding exactly what you just said. So what should we do about that now? Are we not allowed to make that decision?
Yeah, no, you are allowed to make that decision. And Rinka, what I was trying to say is you have many opportunities to make that. You can make that anytime we meet with you after the public hearing, if you wish. If you wish to do it now and postpone the public hearing, we can do that too. It is up to you. Our understanding from our meeting with you on the zoning and the DGIS was to make those changes you wanted in the zoning, which we did, and to make the changes in the DGIS. In fact, Manny, thank you for your final comments on that. So that's what we did. And I think it's clear now that the changes you wanted related to the zoning discussion, and we made all those changes. There is still mention, I do want to be clear, there is still mention in the comprehensive plan of the MF3 zoning idea that the committee had talked about, but it is not recommended for implementation. There is a mention of accessory units, and as you know, we recommended to hold off on that because Peter Harcum has a bill in the state legislature. But the idea has been discussed so that it hasn't been if you will, taken out of the comprehensive plan completely. It is not recommended in the comprehensive plan for any action. So that's the difference. And if you feel you want to go further after the public hearing, for instance, and take that all out entirely, you don't want it mentioned at all in the comprehensive plan, that's your ability to do that.
That's the discussion we had. We
Yeah, I
made a
hope so.
decision, and we're back having the same conversation. I don't mind the conversation. It's the same conversation. So either we have conversations and we agree in majority, and then things get done, or we're having the same conversation again. So
Yeah.
I
Sorry if we
appreciate.
misunderstood.
No, that's okay. I think that's
we
what
tried
Mandy
to do
just said.
everything you agreed to in that conversation.
That's
we tried
cool.
to do.
And I know
Yeah.
that you don't actually even agree with this, but not with us, but with the accessory. But I thought it was a conversation, and Dana's right in that, you know, her recollection is the same. So what do we do at this point in time, right at this moment?
I would go ahead, if you're asking my advice, I would go ahead. The accessory units have been taken out of the DGIS. So it's an indication that no action is contemplated by this Board of Trustees in this matter. It's out of the DGIS as you had requested. It is not in the zoning package that's going forth. So I think it should be clear to, you know, the reasonable reader of anything and anyone coming to the public hearing. So if you're asking my advice, I would go forward with everything now as is.
I think that there's, you know, some merit to what Frank is saying. The comprehensive plan committee came up with a set of ideas that they put forward, but that's not the final version that you're going to pass. And so because you do have comments that need to be changed, the zoning, you have full control over. The DGIS, which covers the zoning, obviously you have full control over. But putting it forward, this is what came from the committee. Once your comments get integrated in over time, it'll come out of the comp plan. So I think that much is clear. It'll definitely come out of the comp plan. But the committee prepared this. So to make those edits before it even sort of makes it to the public phase, even though it's been noticed to the public through the website throughout this whole process, it's sort of a little out of sync. It may make more sense to just move forward. It's of course up to the board what they want to do, what you want to do here. But I do think that it would make sense because it came from the committee, and that is the version that was passed by the committee, that the public hearing be opened up with at least the starting point being the version that was passed by the steering committee.
Mayor, if I may add something too, please.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to repeat everything that we talked about last week, obviously, but you know, the majority of the board agree and making the changes. So my suggestion will be a week for these changes to make happen, reflecting the changes that happen on the DGIS, and maybe we do a special meeting next week and a work session with a revised comprehensive plan to the satisfaction of the board. Then we can go from there if that's something that you think will be appropriate as well.
Mayor, may I just comment for one brief moment?
Yes, please.
I understand everything the board said. I just want to make one point. The law is that within 90 days of receiving the plan from the comprehensive plan committee, it is to be scheduled for a public hearing. The law does not say that in that interim period of time, the Board of Trustees is to revise the comprehensive plan before the public hearing. What is to go before the public hearing is the plan that has been sent to the Board of Trustees by the comprehensive plan committee. That then goes before. Now, this board can certainly put on the record that it is opposed to certain parts in there, but the village law does not contemplate that the Board of Trustees will in effect be revising the comprehensive plan in advance of the public hearing. the public hearing gets held, and then the board, with all the comments plus their own views, revises the comprehensive plan to come up with the final comprehensive plan. Because in effect, if the board is making a change to it now, it is changing what the committee in fact approved. That's the board's prerogative after the public hearing, but not by statute before.
Can you read? Oh, sorry. Can you read the statute to me?
If you give me a second, I'll pull it off.
Sure.
Yep. I may have paraphrased in the ordinance, in the resolution, so give it to me. 722. Sure. It's 722-B6. And what it provides is, in the event the Village Board of Trustees has directed the Planning Board or a special board to prepare a proposed comprehensive plan or amendment thereto, the board preparing the plan shall hold one or more public hearings and such other meetings as it deems necessary to assure full opportunity for citizen participation in the preparation of such proposed plan or amendment. The Village Board of Trustees shall, within 90 days of receiving the Planning Board or Special Board's recommendations on such proposed plan or amendment, and prior to adoption of such proposed plan or amendment, hold a public hearing on such proposed plan or amendment.
Okay, so one thing I've learned is it doesn't actually say we can't. It simply refers to the plan. So that's that's interpretive at that point.
It is, Mayor, but
yeah,
but that, with all due respect, that's how it works with most public hearings.
Their recommendations. Anyway, this is where we are. So I'd like just to get the other trustees' opinion. So Manny has suggested that we revise. I think the bigger issue is that we thought this was already done. We had a lot of conversation about it. We never like it when we have conversation and walk out with an agreement and then have it come back at us. So that never feels like something we're interested in doing. So Manny, you're bringing a solution. Corporation Counsel is suggesting that, and others suggesting it's not actually necessary, the plan show forth, and then at the end of it, after the public hearings, you know, we'll have the opportunity to approve based on recommendations and our own insights. Thoughts on that so we can move forward?
I'm gathering from this, we're going to go forward what was put in front of us by the committee, going to go to public hearing, and then we're going to take this out.
Robert,
Well,
that's correct if that's what you wish to do, and I think that that's the
would
proper
be-
procedure.
That is proper procedure because you have asked a committee to invest over a year of their lives in this. It is their recommendation. It is a committee-based, community-based draft. So again, the board can decide whatever they want on the final draft, but to not allow the committee's draft to be viewed by the public is probably not the best way to operate in terms of a community-informed plan. You may get a lot of people who are wholeheartedly in agreement with this. You may get other ideas. You may get new things that you want to incorporate. But the idea is that the premise is the community delegates were chosen specifically to draft this based on community engagement. That's what the community should be looking at. That's the intent of the process. That doesn't hold the board to that. And that's where I don't think it was that this was discussed and not followed through with. I think it's a nuanced understanding that in terms of the zoning text amendments, you have no obligation to accept zoning or anything in the DGIS that you don't want to enact at this point. But the plan itself is a collection of thoughts and input from the community as a whole. So that needs to be, that's the whole point of the community engagement around the comprehensive plan.
I would say that more than half of that was actually produced and done, not really just by the community, but I get your point. Manny, back to you. It's your suggestion that we make a change for the week, doing a round robin of input from my colleagues, and that was what I was asking.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I totally understand that, and I get your point, Karen. And I do respect all the hard work that the committee did to put this thing forward. Just based on that, and out of respect that all the work that they did, I'm going to react to that, and I'm going to ask the board to pass these resolutions as is, and we'll hear the feedback from the public. And when it's time for us to make a decision in regards to what is going to be the final draft or the final portion of the comp plan, we'll make our decisions at that point and our suggestions at that time. And obviously, as we all know, we do have strong feelings about some areas of change. And then if that's still the case, we'll make those adjustments as at that time. So, Mayor, if we could please just move this resolution along and then move from there, please.
Okay, Dana, any issues with that? Because you and I also had the same understanding. I'm not asking Omar because I know his point of view, and he stated unless he wants to state it again. But that's fine as well. But for the rest of us, Dana, you're the only one left. I'm just doing a round robin at this point.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Anybody else looking for hands? Okay. So we're back. Did we get a first and a second?
It's just for vote now. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Resolution authorizing settlement Linda Siguenza-Cabrera, whereas Linda Siguenza-Cabrera, residing in Sleepy Hollow, New York, filed a notice of claim against the Village of Austining on February 23rd, 2021, and resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining authorizes settlement of the claim of Linda Siguenza-Cabrera for $5,596.43, and be it further resolved that the Treasurer of the Village of Austining is hereby authorized and directed to pay Linda Siguenza-Cabrera $5,596.43 and a settlement of the aforementioned matter upon delivery to the Village of Austining of a release to the village for settlement of the claim. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments on the board? Martha?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody? Authorizing the village manager to sign proposal with Hazen and Sawyer for new treatment systems associated with the new Indian Brook water treatment plant. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Counsel, the village manager is authorized to sign an agreement with Hazen and Sawyer, 498 7th Avenue, New York, regarding design changes and additional work associated with new treatment systems of the planned Indian Brook water treatment plant, specifically incorporating an ultraviolet light UV advanced oxidation process AOP system and a powered activated carbon PAC system, and be it further resolved that the agreement will be consistent with the terms outlined in the February 16, 2021 proposal for an amount not to exceed $398,140 plus an allowance of $43,220. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments on the board? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Referral of proposed comprehensive plan and zoning text amendments to the Westchester County Planning Board and the Village of Austining Planning Board. Whereas a resolution dated January 28, 2021, the members of the Village of Austining's Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee recommended to the Village of Austining Board of Trustees a proposed comprehensive plan. And whereas pursuant to Village Law Section 7-722(5)(a), any proposed comprehensive plan or amendment thereto that is prepared by the Village Board of Trustees or a special board may be referred to the Village's Planning Board for review and recommendation before action by the Village Board of Trustees. And whereas pursuant to Village Law Section 7-722(5)(b), the Village Board of Trustees shall, prior to adoption, refer the proposed comprehensive plan or any amendment thereto for the County Planning Board or agency or Regional Planning Council for review and recommendation as required by Section 239 of the General Municipal Law. And whereas the Board of Trustees Also has been considering amendments to the Village Zoning Code, Village Code Chapter 270 in accord with portions of the proposed comprehensive plan. And whereas pursuant to Village Code Section 270-59, procedure from amending chapter, every proposed amendment shall be referred by the Village Board to the Planning Board for a review, for a report, which shall be rendered within 62 days of such referral. Now therefore be it resolved that the proposed comprehensive plan and proposed amendments to the zoning code, chapter 270, are referred to the Westchester County Planning Board and to the Village of Austin Planning Board for review and recommendations, and be it further resolved that pursuant to Village Code Section 270-59A1, the Village of Austin Planning Board, in considering proposed text amendments to the zoning code, shall make inquiry and determination of the following items. A, whether such change is consistent with the aims and principles embodied in the law as a particular district is concerned. B, which areas, land uses, buildings, and establishments in the village will be directly affected by such change and in what they will be affected. C, the indirect implications of such change and its effect on other regulations. And D, whether such proposed amendment is consistent with the aims of the comprehensive plan and LWRP. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the board? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution authorizing settlement, Camp Electric. Whereas John McGuire, on behalf of Camp Electric, Spark Hill, New York, filed a notice of claim against the Village of Austin on or about February 19th, 2021. And resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin authorizes settlement of the claim of Camp Electric by John McGuire for $5,402.30. And be it further resolved that the Treasurer of the Village of Austin is hereby authorized and directed to pay to Camp Electric $5,402.30 in settlement of the aforementioned matter upon delivery to the Village of Austin of a release to the village for settlement of the claim. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Comments on the board? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Authorizing the village manager to sign an agreement with Arcadis of New York for construction management services for the planned Indian Brook water treatment plant. Resolved that upon review of the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign an agreement with Arcadis of New York Incorporated, 44 South Broadway, White Plains, New York, for the third-party construction management services in connection with the planned Indian Brook water treatment plant, and be it further resolved that the agreement will be consistent with the proposal dated January 22nd, 2021, at a total base not to exceed fee of $2,195,000 and an additional monthly fee for extended contract time not to exceed $100,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board?
Just one quick thing, I guess, since that Andy and Paul are here, and I want to just ask a question. Not a question, but more like, so how close are we to get this project to break ground, I guess?
I could answer that. Hi, board. Hi, Mayor. Basically, once we get this proposal, well, the proposal you just voted on, the $440,000 before this, once that gets enacted, Hazen expects it to take 4 months of engineering to make it, the design, totally ready for the health department approval. I've spoken to the health department and the new regulators. They promised to put it at the front of the list for their approval, but they think it's going to take 2 to 3 months. So we're looking at 7 months after this proposal is signed before we actually have the approval from the health department. Then we need to set a bid date. And then I talked to Paul, and he's in agreement that it's at least 6 weeks once we have the bid date and we advertise, between the advertising and the bid opening because of Wick's law. So that's putting us like around December. And, it's a decision we have to make at that point. Hopefully work is slow and people are slowing down and we get good competitive bidding, but that's what it's looking like at this point. If everything lines up perfectly, the health department keeps their word and Hazen gets the design done when they said they were going to get it done.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. So we made
Add one thing.
Yes. Sorry.
Thanks, Andy. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to add that once it gets executed and this extra work gets designed and implemented into the existing pre-approved plant, we are going to be concurrently doing all the, while Hazen and Sawyer is doing that design work, we're going to be concurrently doing all the necessary approvals that we can do in-house, such as the changes to the stormwater plan, the changes to the building proper, and how it impacts our planning board approvals with the town, and doing all those things along the way to make sure that when it is done, we're ready to go when we get it back from Westchester County. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So we are hoping to break ground the first quarter of 2022.
That's correct. That's correct.
Paul seems not to.
No,
When did we think we were going to break ground when we started this journey 5 years ago?
In 2016, we expected it to take about 3 years, which would have been 2019. Then we had the issues of the health department taking extra long and making changes to the original design and dramatically changing it. Then we had the MIB issues along with taste and odor, which I always said was the silver lining. And that's what you guys approved in the last resolution, the design of those changes. Because if we started the construction of the plant and had those issues later, it would have been a disaster. Those issues happened in 2019 when we would have been in construction. So that's the silver lining on that part. And the other thing is it would have been really bad building this plant during COVID. We're doing these construction projects now, and the amount of delays on small projects, I could imagine what it would have been with a large project of this magnitude. Having COVID and crews not showing up and critical path days being delayed, it would have been a disaster. So, looking forward to get this thing started as soon as possible, but everything happens for a reason.
So, thank you, Andy. Can I request, please, that the last session, work session in June, I would say, which is almost the end of the second quarter, that we get a timeline update, a start to finish, like where we were, and I am asking for a top line, where we were, where we thought we'd be, where we are now, just on a timeline, and what we think the next 3 years looks like. And under it, I'd like to see a graph with numbers that where we started and where we're going, because I think and if I were drawing it in my head, because I'm a visual person, I would have a line above that, that basically over a bar that says, why we're doing this. Okay, because I think the whole purpose of all these conversations is why we're doing it, why it's important, what would it look like if we never did this project. It's a really big project, and it's really expensive, and in a community that's not one of the wealthier communities. I know why I voted for it, and I know why there was a unanimous vote, but it's a long multi-year project, and I think top line has to be, this is the importance of it, this is why we're doing it, and everything you described should not take more than a few minutes. It's a one-pager on a graph to really show the importance of this, the financials, etc. So if you think, you guys could flip a coin where you think it's 2022 or when I will have a grandchild. Neither of my daughters are married, so I'm putting it out there, that it's important in any case. More important is what would happen if we never did this, because I think that's the bigger story. Because I think it's important that municipalities do this, and there's not a hell of a lot of encouragement from other levels of government, from the IRS, from the accounting process, for how we pay for it, for communities, small and large, to upgrade their water plants. And I find that as a citizen of this country to be appalled by that, understanding now what I do and what I didn't understand a few years ago. But I think it's an important story to tell.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that. I agree with everything you said. Thank you, Andy, for pointing out the silver linings here, because yes, you're right. That would have been very problematic undertaking this in this environment. All that said, if I could just address a couple of things the mayor said. One of the things we're already kind of putting together conceptually that's going to address just that is a standalone public information access through our social media venues for the plant. To be honest, I didn't really consider rolling it out with that type of information, but that is important information. it was more or less, like you said, the reason why, the finances behind it, but then we were really going to promote the actual construction phases, including the many green initiatives that incorporated into the plant. But yeah, we can definitely start to do that and really keep the public informed, because if you've been watching the news lately and in the past couple of years, I'm not going to throw out municipalities' names, but there's a lot of municipalities near and far that have a lot of potable water issues. Most recently, the PFOA is coming out of the reservoir that's next to the airport over the river over there, has been very problematic for the residents there. And everybody knows about all the other issues when treatment systems are not maintained as well as we maintain ours. So that's a credit to Andy and his team. And yes, we're going to try to do everything you said and then some, Mayor.
Thank you. At the end of all this is there's been a lot of stuff in the news. None of it would have been in the news if people did what they were supposed to. Those people couldn't do what they were supposed to because the way this is all set up, there's not a lot of incentive to do the right thing. This is expensive to do. So I'm happy that we're doing it, but I'd like more people to really understand the big picture about it. Thank you. Are there any other comments, because we're in the middle of a vote, I think, but that was just my request. Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you to Andy and Paul to do all this literally background work to get to where we are, and I know the struggles, the up and downs that you guys have gone through. So I want to thank you for all this behind the scene work that you guys have done, and I know this is going to be a really awesome project for our community. So thank you for that.
So my last request, just because I have the mic here, although it keeps moving on me, and I think you're going to know what I'm going to say, Paul. You got a couple of internships that get budgeted every year. You're in a huge project. This is such an opportunity for someone who's interested in a career in engineering, career in water and waste management. I know those are not sexy words, but I'm going to tell you what Paul told me, I don't know, 4 years ago. The future of the world. You know, these are big jobs, and they're really important jobs, and it really can open your eye at a local level. We would love it, Paul, if you're going to start using social media more, or Village Manager on our website, if there's a couple of internships for a couple of our kids in high school, or even local colleges or kids in Ossining who go away to college and they need something in the summer. These are good opportunities to get on the inside track of one of the biggest projects that they're going to see at this level. From an accounting perspective, from every perspective, I'd really, if they can help you with your social media stuff, I really would appreciate if an effort was put to publicize. If there are and I didn't even ask, but I thought that there were a couple every year that were available to people. I would really appreciate some publicity on that in English and Spanish, if that's possible.
Will do. In fact, you're right. COVID put a damper on our program that we usually run this last summer, where we usually try to get a couple of STEM-based students to the plant to either inspire them to roll it into college. But in the last few years, it's actually been really nice resume garnish for college students that were in STEM programs. And it's ranged from math all the way to chemistry, because it's really a venue for that. When the new plant is getting constructed and we have the existing plant online, we're going to be able to cover lots of bases. We actually already have a couple of Ossining students in college now that have expressed interest. One of them plant-based environmental studies, and one is construction management studies as an engineering base. So yeah, we're on that page, and we will make sure that soliciting that gets exposed on our social media outreach, and once the folks are there, we will make sure they get publicized as well, because we do like to do that.
You should let Anna Guzman, we talked about, a bunch of us were actually there this past Saturday. You should let her post it also on her Facebook page, because that might reach a whole bunch of families that may or may not know about the opportunity. Just a different outreach, just a suggestion while we're going through this, as we learn more and more about different nonprofits in our community that could be of help to reach out to our families. So appreciate it very much. Thank you, folks. Is there anyone else looking at the gallery? Comments, questions, looking for hands? Not seeing any. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Fire Department appointment, Cataract Hose Company number 2, resolved that upon recommendation of the Fire Chief, Brandon Villa, Austin, New York, was elected an active member of Cataract Hose Company number 2 for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. Okay, is there any continuing business of the board? Nope. Okay, moving on to new business of the board. A resolution authorizing sidewalk improvements in and for the village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $400,000, and authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the issuance of $200,000 serial bonds of said village to pay part of the cost thereof. Be resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, as follows. Section 1, sidewalk improvements throughout and in and for the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, including curbs, gutters, drainage, landscaping, grading, or improving rights-of-way and other improvements and costs incidental thereto, is hereby authorized, subject to permissive referendum, at a maximum estimated cost of $400,000. The plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is as follows: by the issuance of $200,000 serial bonds of said village, hereby authorized to be issued, therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law, and B, by the application and expenditure of $200,000 grants expected to be received in connection therewith. Upon this resolution taking effect, the same shall be published in summary form in the official newspaper of said village for such purpose, together with the notice of the village clerk in substantially the form provided in section 81 of the local finance law. Section 10, this resolution is adopted subject to permissive referendum. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay,
If I may,
let's-
sorry.
Hold on. Martha.
And I saw Paul unmuting himself, so I'm going to ask you, Paul, this, and I know I think the mayor has done this in the past. Do you have a list of the work that you're thinking of doing around the village?
So what happened with this application, this was a CDBG application that we made a couple of years ago for this funding cycle. And we kept it relatively general, but gave the neighborhood we were looking to do the work. And it turned out that with the grant that was secured by Maddie with the multimodal work of the 150,000, a year after we made the CDBG grant, we were able to do a lot of the work that was originally thought about in this scope on Broad Avenue with the sidewalks and the crosswalks there. So we kind of, pushed down the Spring Street a little bit, and we had originally envisioned doing a lot of ADA ramps in multiple areas in that downtown area. A lot of them are in good shape, some of them not so much. And as you know, I think we talked about this a little while back, the new CDBG overlay zone for the areas where you can spend CDBG funds pretty much encompasses the entire village. So no matter where we decide to do these things, they would be okay. But then after that, we met with the county, and to kind of simplify it for themselves, because they are the producers of the construction document, they prefer to do one long corridor. And I guess we're okay with that because they're a good partner with us. So we're basically going to take James Street and run it from, if we can, within those funds, we're going to run it from Highland to State, including the ADA ramps, the sidewalks in front of all those homes. Nothing will be assessed because we're receiving funds from the outside, so they won't give you those funds if you're looking to double dip by assessing the building owner. And then what I envision down there is get all of the concrete work paid by the CDBG program, and then do the pavement after the concrete work is done using CHIPS funding. The county has agreed that if we don't spend all of the concrete money on James, that we can then branch off and try to get some other areas done in that area where some of the intersections are compromised.
Thank you. So you're talking about pretty much from all the way out from Highland Avenue, all the way passing State Street into that complex portion, or because that's where James Street goes down, correct?
Yeah, but one thing they didn't really want to get into, and this would probably go above our budget, was the James Street interconnection with Hunter. That was actually a whole separate CDBG application, but then they backed off that because it was technically in the site plan approvals for the Hudson Step project.
That was my other question, which is separate for this whole conversation, that I will be asking Stuart probably tomorrow at some point, and that involves obviously building department and everything else with the other project, but that's not part of this conversation. But thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. And yeah, that James Street definitely needs work. I think whenever you get to that point in there, one of the things that sometimes we struggle is information to the neighborhood, that we receive complaints, as you know, that I didn't know, I was not aware, but you know, I know you have done notifications on the neighborhood in the past. So if I could ask to please go the extra mile in this case, because we do have a problem of a lot of vehicles parked on off-street areas in there, on-street, I should say. So if we can coordinate a lot of that, which you did when you did Lafayette, I remember that. So if we can keep that in mind as well, please.
Will do. And speaking of that corridor, we're actually meeting with CDBG already, even though we haven't started this program's projects, this funding cycle's projects. We're already meeting with them soon to discuss the next funding cycle from 23 to 26. And we hope to include one of the projects as the Spring Street corridor, where we could take what we did on Broad, take what we did on James, and then run it into the main run of Spring Street, because you know, those are all very heavily traveled pedestrian areas.
I think a lot of and I don't know, because I do live in Spring Street, but a lot of my neighbors will thank you for that in 2 years from now, in maybe 3 years from now, in regards to that, because that's something that they definitely have raised different conversations around my, you know, whenever I go out for a walk. I guess that's something that they always they always talked about, you know, when are you guys paving Spring Street? Sure. So, but yeah, thank you.
So when is this starting?
So the county is right now trying to secure a surveyor to do the necessary base mapping for the construction documents. They think that's going to take a few weeks just to get the surveyor on board. It'll probably take another few weeks to get the survey done. And they're probably going to flip around contract documents for us a couple of months after that. So it's probably going to be a late summer, early fall project.
All right, so without getting into detail at this point, you and Karen and Jamie should really come up with a communication plan, because especially with the kind of winter we've had, and I'm saying we've had, we could still have another snowstorm in March. It's not unheard of. We know that the roads are not great, state, county, and or local. We know that. And people understand, but you know, it's getting rougher and rougher because the potholes are getting bigger and deeper. But when we do fix things, when we do the right thing, we don't sort of talk about it enough. In other words, people that live in these neighborhoods and have to be aware of it. They need to know the good works that are being done. They need to know that this is the timeline, you know, expect the fall and then like in the winter and then 2 months, that whatever it is, these are the approximate dates. And as you get closer, because I don't think that we communicate well inside the communities when things are done. And it's a shame. I've always thought that it's a shame that people are not notified more often in the way that they can understand, and the way that they also have to notify if they have to move their cars, whatever. And also the stores down there, because some of the employees that work in the stores also park on side streets, etc. They should also know. It's good for them. It's good for everybody. It's good for all of us that these streets are being worked on. But I think the original question is, are you going to post the information so that people who are more and more using our website have a sense, even without an actual date, when this work will get done? And I think that was actually the request.
I don't see why we can't do that. I think that one thing that we have to be careful, and it's a little bit different than when you're doing corporate marketing, is that the worst thing that a municipality can ever do is overpromise and underdeliver. So we probably will wait till we're a little more sure on the dates, because dates in government time tend to change, and there can be a big lag, and nothing's more frustrating than telling somebody June and having it be October. So we will, but I think that is a good point. I think you know, another challenge that you have with government, you never want to sound like you're gilding the lily or patting yourself on the back too hard, because ultimately it's the people you're doing it for who are paying. So I think there's ways, though, that we can talk about some of these projects in how they have come to us through community. These are community informed projects. So one of the things that we didn't anticipate to hear when we were doing the comp plan, when we were talking about to the community groups and just different things, I wouldn't have thought to hear this, but one of the things that Neighbors Link brought up was the fact that it was so hard for people to get around who had strollers and shopping carts, because they work with a large client base that walks places, a lot of moms with young kids. And it just ended up, the ADA work that we're doing, which is typically done for other reasons, provides this other benefit, and it's given us a different lens to look at the work. So that's another way we can talk about it. Some of the things we're doing, so that we can really make sure that people understand, especially for this grant-oriented work, that their input can effectuate a more effective product as well.
Right. We're just asking for a timeline plan and execution thereof, that's all, so that everybody gets to know what's going on in a good way. So I think we're in the middle of a vote. Martha?
Okay, Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee Casada,
Aye.
Trustee White. It's a roll call vote, so A or nay.
Sorry, aye.
Aye. And Trustee Fritchie,
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Okay. A resolution authorizing the purchase of a pumper truck, including apparatus in and for the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $738,100, and authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the issuance of $738,100 serial bonds of said village to pay the cost thereof. Be resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the purchase of a pumper truck, including apparatus in and for the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, is hereby authorized, subject to permissive referendum, at a maximum estimated cost of $738,100. Section 2, the plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is by the issuance of $738,100 serial bonds of said village, hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Upon this resolution taking effect, the same shall be published in a summary format in the official newspaper of said village for such purpose, together with a notice of the village clerk and substantially the form provided in section 81 of the local finance law. This resolution is adopted subject to permissive referendum. Do I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
This was brought in later, so does somebody want to tell me what's happening here? Because I'm not understanding why this was brought this way. It's in the budget, it's not in the budget. What's happening here?
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Hello, Dale.
It's in our capital plan. It's listed as $725,000 for the 2021 capital plan. But realistically, they were looking at 2020 prices at the time they developed that. So now they're reaching the actual true pricing for it. And so before they can move ahead, we have to issue a bond resolution to authorize it. So this is the 500-gallon pumper for Hola Hose. In E, they term it an E100.
And what did they say it was going to be originally under 2020?
Originally, it was in the capital plan at $725,000.
Oh, so it's not off by very much, actually.
No.
What are the bonds going for these days, Dale?
It's the bond rates have been very favorable. So essentially, this is a 20-year life.
Right.
So it's around $67,000 per million a year to pay it off. So it'll be a little, say 50,000 in additional debt per year.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Martha?
Okay, Trustee Quesada,
Aye.
Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Aye.
Trustee Fritchie,
Aye.
Trustee Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Okay. A resolution authorizing the reconstruction/resurfacing of streets in and for the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $590,000 and authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the issuance of $350,000 serial bonds of said village to pay part of the cost thereof. Be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the reconstruction/resurfacing of streets in and for the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York, including sidewalks, curbs, gutters, drainage, landscaping, grading, or improving rights of way and other improvements and costs incidental thereto, is hereby authorized, subject to permissive referendum at a maximum estimated cost of $590,000. The plan, Section 2, the plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is as follows. A, by the issuance of $350,000 serial bonds of said village, hereby authorized to be issued, therefore pursuant to the provisions of local finance law, and B, by the application and expenditure of $240,000 chips to be received in connection therewith. Upon this resolution taking effect, the same shall be published in summary form in the official newspaper of said village for such purpose, together with the notice of the village clerk and substantially in the form provided in section 81 of the local finance law. In section 10, this resolution is adopted, subject to permissive referendum. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments on the board?
Okay. Trustee Quesada,
Aye.
Trustee Fritchie,
Aye.
Trustee White,
Aye.
Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Okay. Finance establishment of 2021 Nelson Park and Nelson Sitting Park Tree Planting Capital Project for 2021 New York State DEC grant, whereas the village management wishes to establish a capital project for the DEC Urban Forestry Grant awarded of $38,000 requiring a village match of staff time. Now therefore be resolved, capital projects and capital project budget are established as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Finance, establishment of 2021 fire engine hollow hose capital project for 2021 debt financing sources. Whereas village management wishes to establish a capital project to purchase a fire truck hollow hose not to exceed $738,100, in which part of the village's 2021 capital plan and designated to be financed by issuance of serial bonds. Now therefore be resolved, capital projects and capital project budgets are established as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the board? Okay, so where is this? So this is a second item of over 700,000?
No, it's the same truck.
It's the same one, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just went back up. I'm looking at it. Okay.
Yep, the first
Got it.
was for the bond resolution.
Got it.
And then this is to establish.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have gone right one with the other, but okay, thank you. So I was just flipping through the screen. Martha?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody, okay. Finance, establishment of 2021 street and sidewalk resurfacing capital project from 2021 debt financing sources and the CHIP state aid funding. Whereas village management wishes to establish a capital project in accordance with the 2021 capital plan for street and sidewalk resurfacing not to exceed $590,000, designated to be financed by the issuance of $350,000 serial bonds and $240,000 CHIP state aid funding. Now therefore be resolved, capital projects and capital projects budgets are established as follows. Do I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Nope. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Just give me one second. Finance, establishment of 2021 sidewalk improvement capital projects for 2021 debt financing sources and CDBG grant funding. Whereas village management wishes to establish a capital project in accordance with 2021 capital plan for sidewalk improvements not to exceed $400,000, designated to be financed by issuance of $200,000 serial bonds and $200,000 CDBG grant funding. Now therefore be it resolved, capital projects and capital project budgets are established as followed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the
comments?
board? Not
All those
seeing
in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Nope. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to address the board on any issue tonight?
I don't think there's anybody
Oh, okay.
attending tonight.
Then can I get a motion? Is there gonna be an executive session today or no?
Advice, oh, sorry, Stuart, go
exec.
ahead.
No exec.
No exact, okay, so then can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought we did have.
Advice of
executive-
counsel,
There
Manning.
is no exec, there is advice. It does not go on the record.
Thanks, Stuart.
Okay, so then can I have a second in the motion?
Second.
Motion.
Martha,
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Nope, okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes our session for tonight. Join us next week for a work session. Looking forward to it, and good evening.